Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Well, here we are live on the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I'm excited to introduce to you a special guest. Now, let me tell you that we're live streaming. We're interrupting the airwaves on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And what you'll find in the future is we'll do a YouTube premiere of this interview. We'll be releasing it as an international podcast on the Quiet Warrior Show. So without further ado, it's all about our guest today. I want to welcome to the show Melanie Young. Melanie, welcome to my show.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, we were just talking offline before we started that you're down in Hudson Valley, which is New York, and you're a nomad. Maybe you'll fill in the blank on that. And I'm up here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So what a great time during COVID times to be able to do this and have a great conversation. So, Melanie, before I give it to you, I'm just going to tell the audience a couple things about you, and then we'll get started. Everybody, Melanie, you'll see it on the ticker on the show here. Melanie Young is the author of Getting Things Off My Chest, a survivor's guide to staying fearless and fabulous in the face of breast cancer. She's done many different things. I'm inspired by her. She's a certified holistic health coach, host of 2 weekly live national radio shows that are in their 5th season. And there is one line in your bio that sent me on a journey, and it said something to the effect that mindful moderation, enjoying life without giving up pleasures of the palate. She enjoys life in sips, not gulps, and savors every delicious moment. And there's some tie in here to wine and food and health. And when I saw the word breast cancer, I went, wait a minute, we've got to have this conversation because I got to have that lifestyle no matter what happens. So, Melanie, why don't we start by just asking you something different? Tell us something about yourself that you think a lot of people don't know.
Tom, that's a great question. I've heard you ask that to other guests. Well, a lot of people don't know that I was a really gawky kid, and I was teased a lot for my looks. And so I had to work through a lot of insecurities about my looks and my presentation to get where I am today to help other women go through that. But I really was bullied quite a bit. And I never really talk about that much and what it does to you as an adult and how you have to throw that anxiety off about how you look. And a lot of people don't know that.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. First, I'm going to honor you for having the courage to talk about that. And every time I ask you a question, I know I'm going to get on my own journey. I want to relate to that because as a kid, I experienced bullying, and, I would look in the mirror late in my life. And even when I married Anna, I would walk out of the bathroom and have to put a towel around me. And what I saw coming back was not what I was. And it comes from that. I'm an advocate for anti-bullying, and we could spend a lot of time talking about the neuroscience of how brain get wired. You look fabulous, by the way, and the things that you're doing are inspiring. So let's get into your story. I will ask you some questions to add value to the audience about breast cancer and your journey. I'd like to hear from the beginning. Tell us your story. Where did it all begin, and how did you turn it into this?
Well, Tom, I had been running a very successful marketing and culinary events agency called M. Young Communications in New York City. I've always worked in wine and food and hospitality all my life. And I've always been a writer and storyteller all my life. Even as a little girl, that was what my destiny was. And I was traveling the world, living it in sips and gulps with many global clients, producing many events. I started the James Beard Foundation Awards, which are like the Oscars of the food world, and really had that enviable life that many dream of, being the powerhouse business owner in New York City with an agency and traveling the world. And it was pretty good. I'd weathered some ups and downs. It wasn't all easy. There was a recession. I'd lost a lot of business one year. You get a lot of hard knocks, but I had always come back. I'd always rebuilt my business somehow. And then In 2009, on a business trip to Italy with my husband, who was working with me, I was there for business and I found a lump in my chest, my breast, during a manual, self-examination, which I was always diligent about. And when I came back for my already scheduled OB/GYN annual appointment, my OB/GYN said, I don't like the look of this and the feel of it. I want you to get some tests done. And I did. And of course, sadly, it was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it turns out, Tom, I had tumors and three tumors. Three. I only felt one. So I was blindsided. And that was the journey into what I call in my book, Cancer Land. And like many and all women, you're blindsided and you don't know where to turn and you feel very lost. And thankfully, I had a very good friend whose name is also Melanie, a dear, dear friend, and she'd been diagnosed a year before. And I called her and I said, I need help. I need a mentor. And she became my mentor and gave me a list of questions to ask the doctors, each doctor. And I thought this was so helpful. I was so prepared that became the basis of what I wanted to do to help other women. I knew that I didn't choose to have cancer, but I knew I had to keep running a business because I had to earn a living. I was the breadwinner. My husband worked with me. I had to look and feel my best. I couldn't just disappear into a cancer cave. And I wanted to know what I could do to help mitigate the side effects of the different surgeries and treatments I would be facing through diet, nutrition, and exercise. Again, my background's food and drink. And I want to know what to do and what not to do in the future. So that became my research over the course of my own journey and by interviewing dozens and dozens of other women who had survived breast cancer and then talking to experts. And I literally created what I call the Lonely Planet Guide to the trip you don't want to take to Cancer Land. It's called Getting Things Off My Chest, a survivor's guide to staying fearless and fabulous in the face of breast cancer. And that was it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everybody, we are going to, again, at the end, talk about where you can get that book. Melanie, thank you. I just want to talk back about a few things you said.
Sure.
I was writing some notes here. The book, I've seen the cover of the book. It's fabulous. And if we could ever have a pocket guide for things we need during difficult times.
I have it here if you want me to pull it up.
Yeah, why don't you hold it up? Let's take a look. There it is, everybody.
It's a very empowering book. It's intended to be, because you want people to look and feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the book I did not have when I was going through my experience.
Yeah, thank you. That's fantastic. We'll give the website where to get it at the end. I wrote down a bunch of things here. First of all, I want to just pause the story and then we'll go forward. And something came to my mind about the earlier comment you said about the gawky kid and being bullied, and then you transformed into this powerful business person. I mean, being an entrepreneur, we know, is taking risk, and there's hard work involved. It's not like having a stable paycheck. But where was it in your early years, your childhood, whatever, that made you say, this is what I'm going to do for a living? Because some kids who are bullied, who start off with adversity, don't have the courage to go out and do those kind of things.
Well, I was bullied, but I was also bossy. And I got in a lot of trouble for being a bossy girl. I was an only child. I liked to be the center of attention, positive attention. And I didn't like taking direction from people. I never have. And I had very, my parents were not, they were not authoritative. They let me do my thing and they encouraged it. I have a mother who only wears purple and is a star. And I have a father who became a star also as a wine educator and author. So I was born and bred to be successful. I wasn't given any other option. I think that's very important for a lot of reasons as the story unfolds down the road in future years. So when I always wanted to be a writer, I kept diaries and I still have them from when I learned to write. I have little bitty diaries in a box and I always wanted to be a writer. But when I applied for jobs post Watergate, nobody would hire me, the girl. They wanted me to be the secretary and type. Yeah. So I fell into public relations because I could write. And that's a skill that's so important. I became an entrepreneur the day my grandmother dropped dead of a massive heart attack. I was very close to her. She was my spirit junkie. She loved everything I did. And I had wings that could fly anywhere, she said. And the day I found out she died of a massive heart attack, which also impacted my approach to health, down the
Yeah.
road. I went into my office. I was working for a big PR agency in New York at that time. And I said, I need to go. My grandmother's dead. I have to go home. And I said, I'll be back. I didn't say when. And they figured I'd come back like Sunday night. She died on I was flying down on a Friday, and I came back on a Wednesday, and I got a reprimand when I came back. I didn't ask permission to stay 2 extra days.
Right.
And that's the day I said, I want to run a business where I don't ever have to ask permission to do what matters to me.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that's a teaching moment in the show. Everybody, come back and listen to this part. They say in the narrative of my show, The Hero's Journey, that there's a point in our lives where we have either too much pain or there's something driving us pleasure, and it forces us to go and seek and discover. I think that you have this resilience. I got to tell you that looking at you, you look amazing, but there's this energy from you, this positivity. Something happened in your life a couple of days ago. You shared on social media, which you can tell us about if you like. But here you are, and I remember when I said, "Would you like to reschedule?" You said, "No, the show must go on." The person close to you in your life dies. You pushed on. They said you couldn't do this. You pushed on. You decided to work for yourself, not somebody else. I wrote down the word trailblazer, and I think what inspires me about your body of work, getting to know you, is that all of those people watching this who come from adversity or maybe can't find that courage to step out into the unknown and do something to impact the other's life. I think this is a great time to say Melanie Young could be your mentor. So I want to move on and ask you something about the whole food and wine thing. It's a little bit a right turn. That is, my father passed away January 2018. I talk about this openly. My book was dedicated to him. But he became an alcoholic. It was in his bloodline. He was a military commanding officer. And I have a fellow friend and author who wrote a book called, I won't say it on the show because I don't want to make it about that, but she's a clinical counselor in the U.S. And she said whenever somebody goes to their doctor and talks about the topic of struggling with drinking, the choice treatment is usually AA, abstinence. And I remember my dad struggled all his life because he just wanted to have a drink. He wanted to have the ability to drink in moderation, and nobody really gave him that option. One of the things I loved about your writing here is you said moderation, little sips, not gulps. And so tell us more about that. I mean, the whole issue of cancer, and yet you found a way to still enjoy life with food and moderation and drinking. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry about your father. Alcoholism is a disease, and it's a very hard one. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I grappled with, did my career make me sick? You do that Monday morning quarterback. And I knew I had to make changes moving forward because unfortunately, there is a direct correlation with alcohol and breast cancer. Women who have 2 glasses of breast cancer, 2 glasses of wine or alcohol a day are 15% more likely to get breast cancer.
Wow.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So I had to grapple with that. But I also love wine. I make a living. I also have a show about wine and food. It's how my husband and I came together. It's a joy in my life as well as a living. So I made a deal with myself that I would not give up what I love, but I would enjoy it in moderation, responsibly, and I would make sure I only drank really good wine. I don't waste my calories and intake on crap. Sorry. So, and it's the same way with food. So I still love it, but I know not to overdo it. Not that I was, but it got a little crazy there in terms of just eating and drinking a lot and not thinking about the exercise part of it that goes with it. So that's how I do it. And I always say, the guidelines are 1 5-ounce glass of wine a day for women, 2 for men.
Right.
And similar with like 1 drink, it's a spirit. So make 2 ounces, cut that and have 2 sips, have smaller sips. Don't gulp it. Have your wine with food. Don't drink it alone. Hydrate a lot, balance it with lots of water. Have dry days. We have dry days where we don't drink at all. And of course, as a professional, I spit a lot. You wouldn't believe all the good wine I have to spit out. But you have to come to a relationship with what you're willing to give and what you're willing to give up. And I did. And I encourage everybody to do that.
Well, thank you, Melanie. And I want to just riff on that a bit more. So, with my father, I mentioned that, I really believe that behind alcoholism, there is always some kind of a mental health challenge. And I
Yes.
think my dad's dad had the same addiction. But I remember at times it would be so nice to be able to say, Dad, here's an ounce of something. But the treatment today in the world doesn't talk about moderation. So I love what you're teaching there. The other thing I was thinking about is I was traveling down the United States on business last year. I went and stayed in a motel, Best Western, and on the wall it said the food you were going to eat in this restaurant could cause cancer. And I'm thinking, like, it's the whole industry of food. It's to me, I I believe in natural medicine, and my wife
Hmm.
is Italian, so we absolutely love wine, and but our diet is very clean, and we're aware of what we eat. There's pesticides and all sorts of things in foods as well. So tell us about how, now that you've survived breast cancer, and we're so honored to know your story, how do you choose, eat, and navigate through, or is that all a myth? I mean, tell us more.
It's very important, Tom, and I don't know a single woman who's been diagnosed with breast cancer who hasn't made a pact with
Yeah,
herself that she will make a change. Obesity, and I'm going to be very careful about this because this came up on my show and someone said, are you saying fat people are destined to get cancer? No, I'm not saying that. I'm
right.
saying that obesity, being overweight, can raise your risk for breast cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and other illnesses. So it is to your advantage to maintain a healthy body weight. How do you do that? You exercise regularly. You moderate how much you eat, the quantity of your calorie intake, and you also eat a healthier diet. That means more greens, preferably organic, but if you can't afford, organic, flash frozen, scrape it, vegetables. Make 2/3 of your plate fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and make your meat smaller percentage. Meat becomes a side dish. In my case, I gave up meat. Now, I gave up meat because I actually lost my taste for it during chemotherapy. The sight and
Yes.
smell
Mm,
of meat nauseated me, including Southern barbecue, which I used to eat like crazy.
yeah.
And I spinach and pineapples and papayas were my soothing foods, and I still
Yeah.
love them. I could have them daily. So I made a conscious decision to have a vegetable focused
Yes.
diet and a little bit of fish and white meat, chicken, and eggs. And I don't eat a lot of junk food, no processed food. And when I do and slip, particularly during the pandemic, I feel it immediately. I feel
Yeah.
sick immediately. So no junk food.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up with junk food, sugar, and chocolate
Mm,
bars. What I learned through my own journey with my health is inflammation plays a major part in my body.
yes.
And I can tell you the same thing, that one of the things when I pick up a glass, I've changed. I wanted to tell you, Melanie, is I always ask myself, why am I having this? Is it because of the bouquet and the type of wine and the experience with the food I'm
Hmm.
having? Or is it because I had a tough day and I'm stressed out and I'm dealing
Yeah.
with some mental stress? So I've really done that. We also shifted and got these little carafes that are graduated with 9 and 6 ounce pour lines.
Hmm.
Before we'd open a
Interesting.
bottle, we'd open a bottle, and Anna being Italian, we would sit and watch a movie and finish one,
Hmm.
two bottles, and not even know how
Right.
fast. Uh, Little things, but the inflammation part and eating fruits, vegetables, totally a great learning lesson
Hmm.
on the show today from you.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question about the journey. Tell me, maybe painful, but if you can, the day you did the self exam and you found the lump in your breast, and then you said there were three. What what went through your mind? How did you feel?
Well, I'm going to start with the day I felt the lump. I was in Italy. So I just said, that's weird. Mental note, go back to New York and deal with it. So it wasn't that I was in the trip. So I just put it away
Yeah,
over here. The day I found out that I had three, totally different. I went in for what they call a core biopsy. And you're on there. And remember, I thought it was just for the lump on my left breast, which I could
hmm,
feel. And it felt like Pac Man
uh,
biting at my breast. It hurt like you can't even imagine. So I was already rattled. And I got up from the table and I got dressed and I was like, ugh. And the technician said, we forgot to test the other breast lumps. And I
yeah,
said, what other lumps? She said, well, you have two more. And I, excuse me, I just remember thinking, oh my God. Oh my God. And I remember going in, again, more painful, Pac-Man's on my breast. And then I went into the bathroom to put water on my face, and I just saw a face filled with terror, filled with fear.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and in the middle of Madison Avenue, I was in New York City. I lost it in the middle of, I call it the Madison Avenue meltdown in my book.
Yeah.
I lost it and cried. I sobbed and called my husband. I couldn't breathe. And then I called two good friends who both had been, my friend Melanie and another, been through cancer. And they consoled me. We drank rosé and we sat, and we laughed, they calmed me down. But that was the moment. And I hadn't even been diagnosed with cancer yet, but I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know your body. Sometimes I was thinking to my journey in my head again about your husband. I was thinking from a lot of people I met, the unsung heroes that we don't always hear about are the people who have to walk beside us. And
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot to that as well. Having somebody who can support you, somebody strong enough. I wanted just to tell you that I had a friend a year ago, and he would be smoking. He'd walk around in pain, and he was a young man. And one day he came back. It was a place I was working for a while, and he was white as a sheet, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It made me realize, not having experienced personally with cancer, but knowing people who had succumbed to it or beat it, that why do we wait so long to do the tests? Or what do you recommend in terms of preventive?
Well, aside from, and I'm going to speak from all cancers in the 0 to breast cancer, 80% or 90% of breast cancers are lifestyle related, not genetic. 90%.
Wow.
Like a significant portion of all disease, dis-ease, is based on lifestyle. So these are steps you can change affordably and effectively. You just have to commit. So that's the number one thing. Change your lifestyle. Again, daily exercise. It is science-based. Exercise and movement can reduce your risk of cancer, particularly breast cancer. Change your diet. Don't give up everything you love. Just cut back on some of that stuff. Don't smoke. That's a given. Watch your stress. Even though stress is not the direct culprit, it doesn't make you get cancer. It raises toxicity and inflammation in your body. And when your body has inflammation and toxicity, it is less immune to illness and dis-ease. It is just waiting for it to come in. Maintain healthy relationships with yourself and with others. Get rid of the people who are stressing you out and making yourself miserable. I did that. You have to weed that garden. And, find something spiritual or meditative to do that is your release. These are things that you can do every day.
Yeah. I said to you a few minutes ago about natural medicine. At age 31 was the last time I took any kind of drug. I was on a cholesterol drug because I'm South Asian and there's higher risk. And I was at that time I was a traveling CEO of a company all over the place. Daughter was born, and I was drinking a bit, probably too much. And I literally had side effects to the point of a near stroke from the statin drug. So they took me off it. But I stumbled very naive, into a naturopathic doctor's office. And so you're preaching to the converted. From that point, I took control of my life. And this is a controversial thing to say, but I get so frustrated with all the money that's raised for cancer treatment. And they say find the cure. But we don't always hear about the Melanie Young's strategies, which makes total sense to me, about proper exercise, diet, managing stress. And I look at the lifestyles of North Americans, they're workaholics, obesity, all of that. It's like, why is it so simple to you and I? We can see, but why doesn't North America see?
Well, it's not simple. It's not simple because I was a self-confessed workaholic.
Right.
Once a workaholic, you do have the tendencies to be a workaholic. So you always have to discipline yourself. It is a discipline.
I see. I was a workaholic too, and I did my self-development and realized that I was actually trying to put something in me by achieving that was missing since I was a young man, which is the love and appreciation from my own father. There's many people who become workaholics, or I believe from the stories I've heard, they have this chip on their shoulder, but there's something that drives that. So I love what you said about unraveling that meditation. Everybody, you got to read Melanie's book to get all these strategies. We're coming up into sometimes exciting and now maybe difficult time of the year, Melanie, which
Yeah.
is holidays. We have COVID-19 and the world's changed. How do you give us some advice on managing the added stress impacts to your health during this time?
I've been giving that a lot of thought, Tom, in terms of grieving, because a lot of us are grieving right now. Many of
Yeah.
us have lost the loved one to COVID or something else. We're grieving loss of time. We're grieving a loss of the way life used to be. It's very hard to give thanks when you're grieving. And so I think that you need to step back and not feel pressured to make it a big celebration, and focus on giving thanks for smaller things. Are you well? Be grateful. Are you with someone that, you share your life with? Be grateful. Are you thankfully alone because you got rid of someone you got sick of? Be grateful. Make it as simple as that and not something bigger. We're living in homes. We're not contained. We're safely contained. We're not jailed. We're encamped. You got to rethink. I call it reframing the thought of giving thanks. And we're going to have quiet celebrations. I mean, Thanksgiving for many people go, oh, I don't care about Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter, but it will matter. People are alone. You will get through it. It will be different. But I think we have to rethink what giving thanks is, and allowing us to give ourselves permission to not feel so thankful and great. It's okay to be angry too. It's okay to grieve.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I agree. It's a time where a lot of people focus on what they don't have versus being
Right.
grateful for what they have. And maybe, just maybe, all the commercials about the toys and the gifts, and in September, the Christmas tree going up in Costco when it's still not even the end of September puts us in this commercialized frame of mind. So I love what you gave us there. I want to go back to the treatment, and forgive me for asking maybe what are simple questions or complex questions, because I'm a guy who's never dealt with this,
Okay.
obviously. And that is, what other signs beyond a lump in the breast could indicate?
It's a great question. But that's a very good question, because there are other 11 other signs. I'll just top line a few.
Wow.
It could be a painful breast, a burning, an enlarged breast, a dimpled breast. Your nipples may leak blood. Instead of milk, if you're nursing, it may be inverted. It could be a pain. I've heard a lot of people say they just had a dull pain. So it's not necessarily a lump. It could be a pea-sized hard marble. In my case, it was a lump. It was a lump. If you see something and feel something, say something. Don't assume it will go away. You're not a hypochondriac if you go to the doctor every time you have a concern. I'm a big believer in being proactive and preventive, because, the more you can do to not get sick, the better. The more you can do to detect something early, the better. One of my best friends sadly died because she did not take care of herself and did not do all the things we're talking about. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 metastasized breast cancer that eventually went to her brain.
Wow.
And that was a learning lesson for me. And, I encourage everybody, just, I don't like following all the rules, but I do like following some rules, like get your annual mammogram,
Yeah.
examine your breasts every month, take better care of yourself. Those are the rules you follow, because you're investing in your health. And when you don't have your health, nothing else matters.
Oh, that's wonderful. I go back to parenting. I talk about that a lot on my show, about as we get older and we look back, what can mothers do and in what age, to start teaching their daughters about this preventive? Because obviously many women grow up and they don't do it, these preventive steps. What would you
Well,
do different?
I think, one, have an open, honest conversation from the beginning. Your body is nothing to be ashamed of. So don't be ashamed to talk about it, because a lot of moms are afraid to talk about menstruation, sex, your breasts, your vagina. They don't even say the word. 2, do as I say. So be a role model. How
Absolutely.
will a daughter learn to drink in moderation if mommy's hitting the bottle every night and getting drunk? How will a daughter learn to eat healthy if mommy's hitting the junk food? Cook
Yeah.
with your daughters and sons too. Cook with them so they learn the beauty of preparing fresh food. Take them shopping so they understand how to shop for food, because that daughter will grow up and go to college and she'll gain 10 pounds because she never learned how to shop for food or prepare simple meals. And she'll
Absolutely.
eat junk food.
That's wonderful. And that's another reason, everybody, to get the book. We'll tell you again before the show ends and read it. It's a guide to how to navigate through this difficult topic. I want to ask you about Christmas time. I know that I always go through this because of my own health, and I want to stay clean with my diet, and sugar is an enemy for me. And then
Me
boom,
too.
Christmas comes and everybody has the wine and the chocolates and things. So tell us about healthy food choices or swaps you can make so you still fit in and have a good time.
Well, first of all, we're not going to parties now, but if you were going to parties, just don't plant yourself in front of the table with all the food. Always have something else in your hand. That's number one. Two, if you don't want to drink too much, sparkling water. Sparkling water and a slice of lime or lemon is a great substitute.
Yeah.
And you can sip more of that. Or if you're prone to gassiness, just have regular water. Just drink a lot of water. It's okay. You can spike it with fruit juice. I'm a big believer in getting, I like crunchy, savory things, less sweet. So sweets are not my thing. I like cutting up radishes and carrots and crunchy things, cauliflower, and having them to munch on instead of chips and dip. When my husband gets he likes those Triscuits, I always have the sliced radishes ready. So that's a
Right.
smart one. If you want crunch, get crunchy vegetables and use them in your hummus or your bean dip or your salsa. If you like sugar, it's a tough one. Sugar makes me dizzy. Fresh fruit. Fresh fruit is great. Or opt for having a few dried fruits, a little like small, an individual servings, like a little few dates, not too much. So you're not having, try to go for a natural fruit or dried fruit and not white sugar. I think that's really important. I'm a big honey and yogurt person, or maple syrup and yogurt. And here's a great secret. I love and you'll know this, your wife being Italian, aged balsamic vinegar.
Oh, yes.
Aged balsamic vinegar has a sweetness to it that if you put it on a fresh strawberry or a wedge of cheese, sharp cheese, or even in your yogurt, you'll get that sweetness umami you want, but it's vinegar and there'll be a sweetness. There's some sugar content, but it's not going to be like your white processed sugar. So that's one of my little tricks in the bag, is to have really good vinegars as my sugar options.
That's amazing. I would just want to tell you that I live in a village type setting and it's beautiful. We can walk out on, I have my fishmonger, my butcher, but there's a place that's open that has olive oils and vinegars from around the world. And Anna and
Wow.
I have always bought balsamic, but when I finally found something that was aged and what you said is absolutely incredible. One little drop. And it's funny. It's as if we're reading each other's playbook because our breakfast here, one of our choices is yogurt, bit of maple syrup, some nuts.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to add my balsamic drip to that. So thank you for that
Well, I
tidbit.
also do it with leftover vegetables. I'll take my leftover vegetables from the night before, put it in my yogurt, mash it all up, and then spike it with some balsamic. It's like really good breakfast.
Yeah. Everybody, if you've just tuned in to the live stream or you're going to hear this or watch it in the future, we're talking to Melanie Young. She's an author of a book called Getting Things Off My Chest. And if you just tuned in, you might be hearing us talking about wine and food and thinking like, how does this have to do with the real topic we're talking about is breast cancer? I want to honor you and say this, Melanie, and it's part of my story, which not everybody knows, that in 2018, the fall of 2018, August 25th, I was participating in what's called the Ride to Conquer Cancer up here in Canada. I did 225 kilometers over 2 days on my bicycle. I'd never done it before, and I was actually riding for a friend of mine who lost his daughter to leukemia, my wife's childhood girlfriend who died from leukemia in her middle ages, and a couple others. And the first leg of the ride that night, I stayed in a motel with Anna. I slipped in the bathtub and cracked the tub with my head and suffered a severe brain injury, and also my life literally stopped. I'm now 2 years into that recovery. I've slipped into depression and everything that came with it. And I remember they said to me after I fell, I said, Dan, I got to ride the next day. And everybody said, don't do it. And I remember I said to myself, and I told Anna in the motel room. My head was pounding, taking Tylenol. I said, and I didn't know I was concussed. I said, you know what? People who struggle with cancer, they don't have a choice. So I'm going to fight through it. So I actually finished the ride. I came in
Wow.
last and was brought home in the car sleeping, and then found out the bad news the next day. Uh, I want to tell you this magic moment. When we were at the starting line, there was 2,100 bicycles, and it was the dawn before the ride. And they, on the stage, they had a microphone and they had the camera on. The media was there, and they said, all of you riders, take a look to your left and a look to your right, and look at all the bicycles with yellow flags. And those yellow flags are people who are either currently in treatment for cancer, who have basically beat cancer. I was blown away. I mean, I was on a bicycle,
Wow.
and this 90-year-old guy zoomed past me, and I caught up with him at the rest stop, and I said, dude, why is the yellow flag? He said, oh, I'm in the middle of chemo. And that's when I stopped complaining about life. I said, if that guy with the courage can do that, then we all need to learn from this. So I want to ask you, as we go to the last couple of questions, just about your journey of, you had chemo, and then was there other things, and then post-treatment? And the biggest question I have is, even though I don't experience this, is there a fear about this is going to come back? And, there's a mental part to this as well.
Yes. Well, I had traditional chemo. It was called ACT. It was a type of chemo for breast cancer. And yes, I lost my hair and I had incredible bone pain, and it lasted about 8 months of chemo. I chose not to do radiation. The percentages of whether it was going to benefit me even more I just didn't measure up to the potential risks to my heart and my skin and the radiation. So I didn't. And I went into endocrine therapy for a number of years until I just had too much risk to my bone density and pain. And again, no one can convince me that the percentages of my staying on it any longer mattered. So I went off of it. I'm healthy. Since then, I do go back and get checked. Yes, there is a fear of recurrence. There is always that in the back of my head. And every time somebody is diagnosed with a recurrence or a metastasis, my heart skips a beat and I have to reset and go calm down and go take a walk or something, and just, commit to living life the way it is. Because something could happen to you tomorrow. I mean, we're in a pandemic. Something can happen to you at any time. Life happens. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I live as mindfully as I can without fear. This is why I'm fearless and fabulous. I commit to staying fearless and staying fabulous. So I did have breast surgery this summer of 2020 to remove my implants and replace them, because it turned out the implants I have, which were silicone textured, were recalled by the Food and Drug Administration due to a risk to a rare form of lymphoma. They were causing me difficulty. I was having what they call breast implant autoimmune issues, and they also have a shelf life of 10 years. So I just said, let's be practical. Let's get new ones and get ones that are safer and less prone to issues. So I did that, and I feel much better for that decision. But it was my decision, no pressure, and everything you do from your treatment on is your choice. You didn't choose to have cancer, but you can choose how you want to treat yourself and how you want to undergo cancer treatment. And even last night, I was talking to my brother-in-law, who's had a stem cell transplant. He's weighing whether to continue with more chemo or not. And I said, what is your choice? What is the truth? And stay with that truth when you make the choice. Live with no regrets for the decision.
Wow. Thank you. You sent me on this journey about what I talked about before, about making the choice at age 31 to not take medication and take back my own health. My wife lost her mom years ago to a stroke, and I remember Anna's. I'm looking at a mini Anna on the screen here. My wife is a lot like you. Her personality, she's not just stubborn, but if somebody says something, she'll challenge it. I mean, she's a trailblazer. And I remember they used to want to do this, and this, and Anna would always, because her mom didn't speak much English, challenge it and say, you have choices, Mom. You don't have to do this. So everybody, this is a teaching moment. I think life is about choices. And I also love the fact that you're teaching a lifestyle of making choices to be joyful and happy through your passions for food and wine. And we have that thread because I'm a foodie, a home chef. And we love wine. So everybody, it's good to know that when you deal with serious illnesses such as cancer, there is life afterwards of having a balance and being able to have a great lifestyle.
Right.
I want to end with a couple things here. First, let's give it back to you and tell us, Melanie, where can people get a hold of all your great work, particularly the book, if you want to hold it up again?
Sure. Well, this is the book. It's called Getting Things Off My Chest. Oops. Fearless and Fabulous Guide, Survivor's Guide to Staying Fearless and Fabulous in the Face of Breast Cancer. Won a couple of awards. Yay, my first book. It's available on Amazon, obviously, Barnes & Noble, obviously, and other independent bookstores. It's the publisher is Cedar Fort, which actually you can buy the book at Cedar Fort. They're an inspirational small publisher. They took me on. Some of the big ones were like, who write a cookbook, Melanie, write a cookbook. We don't want to talk about cancer. No, I want to talk about cancer. And my website is melanieyoung.com. You can buy it there and autograph it. And you can follow me on Instagram, Melanie Fabulous, and Twitter, Melanie Fabulous. So I'm everywhere. My show is Fearless, Fabulous You. So
fantastic. Everybody, you better come back and watch that last part. Write down those websites. Get the book. I highly recommend it. And I got to tell you that all those other publishers who went, yeah, well, you know what's their loss because we need a book. I don't think I've smiled as much and been as energetic as much about a serious topic. And that I'm an advocate for mental health. So if I had an award for you, it would be focused on creating joy and happiness. They taught me a long time ago that you can choose to have a positive or a negative thought.
Right.
And what I'm seeing everybody, Melanie, has done here is create a way to navigate through cancer and surviving it by focusing on things that make you happy and joyful. And the brain can choose, and when we're happy and joyful, our immune system strengthens and life is good again. It's so fantastic. So a couple of surprises for you. I write these down as I'm interviewing people. I don't script them, so I have some words I want to honor you with. These are what I call leadership words, but they come to me. The first one is trailblazer. You're trailblazing a path of bringing together the worlds of food and wine and passion and surviving cancer. Bravo. The second one is Maven. I would say that if there's somebody you need to go to, everybody who is an encyclopedia of wealth on health, happiness, and dealing with cancer for the breast cancer, this would be it. 3 is joy. It comes out of you. And it's amazing to me. 4 is courage. You say fearless. You are courage. So congratulations. And I have a couple surprises for you. We're officially inducting you into what we call the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Thank you.
You're going to receive the award. Now, if you see behind me my screensaver, there is an image there, and that guy there looks like a guy I know. And so that is a challenge coin. Now, challenge coins were created in World War I. They were carried by soldiers to commit community to each other. And on the front of the coin, it's handcrafted and painted in the U.S. and minted there. The front is the image of the show, and the back is actually the hero's journey narrative drawn and illustrated, which is the journey that people take to become heroic and do something meaningful to change the world. By receiving it, it comes in a cherry box. There's only 450 a year that go out in this planet of 8 billion people. I want you to know that after 3 years of my show, by carrying this coin, you commit to never stop doing the work you're doing. And just know when you carry it, you're connected to all the other quiet warriors who have come on my show and shared their heroic stories. So welcome to the tribe.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I'm totally honored. I really am. And I will live up to all those expectations.
You're welcome, Melanie. And then the second one is in the future. 2021, I'm launching what's called the QW list. It's a QW Top 100 book list. We're gonna launch it so it becomes iconic. And the idea came from this, that when I became a CEO, the board of directors gave me a book and said, read this. And I never realized, but they were dripping on me information to develop culture. And then people ask me as a coach now, what books should we read? And so I decided I'm going to develop this list so that people around the world will go to it. But I only want to put books on it of authors who have actually lived what they teach. There's so many books written, but you look behind the curtain at what people do. Tony Robbins says you're judged by what you do in private, not in public. There's so many authors who BS in their books, and yet they're living a bad life. I'm letting you know that your book will make that list. And in 2021, we'll bring you back for a 5-minute talk about it and induct you formally onto it. And that's my way of spreading your message to the world of
Wow,
survivors
thank
of
you.
cancer. Well, you're welcome. So everybody, find this show on your favorite podcast channel. Give it a high rating so we can honor Melanie's work. And check out that website she gave you. Get that book, that fabulous book. And, live the life that you deserve and desire with passion and purpose, just as you've heard from Melanie Young today. Melanie, thanks for being on the show.
Tom, thank you so much. I really honor you for all your work too. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca